welcome. I really appreciate people coming in out of the sunshine to get this information. I know a couple people are online. I just talked to one of them on the phone. Hopefully he'll be logged on here in just a moment. If any of you, I think most of you know me, but I'm John Dahlen. I'm a former board member and a lifetime member of the Airmen's Association, and I made this trip for the first time last summer, and somebody said to me afterwards, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to organize this next year. Do you want to do it? And before I could even answer, it was done. So Marshall is backing me up wonderfully, even with a full plate elsewhere that he's got. Thanks, Marshall. So, as you know, our target date is to leave Nome May 31st and be back to Nome June 30th. That's all Alaskan time. And up in the upper left-hand corner is what our logo looks like in Russian. That's the Alaska Airmen's Association, or literally Association Aviators Alyaska, Alyaski. But I'm assured that's how you translate the Alaska Airmen's Association. So let's see here. So tonight, introductions. I just introduced myself, John. Our safety lead, Dan Billman, one of the pioneers that helped get this all started back at the turn of the century, is out of town. He wasn't able to get back in time tonight, but he's our safety guy, and he'll be watching over us as we do all our planning and whatnot. Tandy Wallach, a trip organizer, is not here also. If you don't know her, she's the owner of Circumpolar Expeditions, and they've been doing this kind of stuff, coordinating circumpolar expeditions for, I think, over 35 years now. So she is going to be handling all of our ground logistics and whatnot, room and board and cultural activities and ground permits and whatnot. So if you're going and you haven't gotten in touch with her yet, I really urge you to do so. Oh, I think yesterday or sooner would be good. So, okay. And she has also had a major hand, not only in helping us do our VFR flights, but in building bridges across from Alaska over to the Chilcotka region. She has had a heavy hand in all of that organizing. Okay. Andy is here, Andy McClure. He's Flight Service Station Staff Support Specialist, but to us, he's our Mr. FAA. He has so much knowledge, and what he doesn't know, he has access to, and so he's holding our hand and helping us with the FAA. A lot of this stuff has been new. Some of it's getting more current, but like last year, we had to do quite a bit of retraining on the ICAO flight plans, for example, because they weren't required yet. But I think by the time we go this year, folks will have more experience with them. So Andy is really helpful. I thank you, Andy. And Marshall Severson, right behind Andy there, is another one of the pioneer developers. And he's, I'd say, he's my mentor and trip advisor, and he's the one I had the good fortune of flying up to Nome and back with on the first effort last summer. We went up to Nome, waited a few days. We were going to wait one more day, and then we decided at the last minute, nah, everybody else is gone, let's just go ahead and go. Turned out to be a good thing, because the next day, or even as we had took off, the volcanic ash from the volcano down south had reached Sabunga already. So had we waited another day, it might have been a couple of days. So, and Tandy Wallach, I see, just walked in. This is who I was talking about, Circumpolar Expeditions. If you ever need to know anything about doing stuff over there with the people and, you know, the permits, the permissions, the hospitality, the culture, there's Ms. Culture right there. She's been doing it forever. So, okay, so, and Tandy, I was just telling them right before you walked in, if they're going and they haven't contacted you yet, they ought to do that yesterday or sooner. Okay.
Yes.
So, And Tandy's going to speak to you all in a little bit too, a little later on. I've got a window for her to talk also. So the goals for tonight's meeting: a quick review of the flight, the purpose of the plan. Spend a little bit of time talking about some contemporary safety factors, some bit about liability insurance, and update. I have also in the slideshow you'll get from tonight some updates on the key contact information and details for how to sign up for services with MAC General Aviation Services, or MAC Gas. Jenny there over in Moscow is the one. His company will be handling all of our aviation logistics. He'll be handling our navigation, our permits to fly into and out of Russia, our landing permits. He does the air stuff and Tandy does the ground stuff. And between them, they keep us all out of trouble. Okay. So he set it up real easy to sign up for this year. I've got a wide open agenda for you, Tandy, whatever it is you would like to talk about. And I'm thinking you should get easily 15 minutes. Then we'll wrap it up with some questions and answers. I've been collecting a few little tips that didn't warrant their own agenda item, and suggest the next meeting will probably be April 8th, but I can't say that permanently yet. Okay? And maybe most of you have seen this map already. This is how I do a map. It's, I don't know, what, 4th grade, 5th grade? But obviously we're down here now. Nome, we fly up over Tin City. At Wales, we head west. There are the Diomede, and the boundary intersection named Batney is right there as well. And then you get down to Laurentia and then down to Providencia. So that's just a kind of a rough overview. This is also getting streamed on Facebook. It will be on YouTube. So I'm doing a bit of the basic stuff again, so that people who maybe hadn't seen it before can see it. There's Providencia. It's the airport is across the bay, back right about here, and that's a deep water port. So we were staying last summer down right around here somewhere. There's a vocational technical school that has a cooking program in it, and so we stayed in the dorms that were empty for the summer, and then some of the folks came in and cooked our meals for us. And then the mayor's office is down around this end of town, so we walked down there. We did quite a few things in Providencia. We met with the school students and got them fired up. And, if you saw the stuff from the first slideshow, you have an idea what we're building up to there. So why are we doing this? One, it's an adventure flight that few people have completed. Now I know World War II, the Alcid route kind of overflew some of where we're going. That was the Lend-Lease program coming up from Montana and over to Krasnoyarsk. At that time, it wasn't designated as the VFR route. It's been, for the last 20 years, it's been Bravo 369 was the VFR route. Just last November, they restructured that and renamed it. Now it's Kilo Romeo 824, I think. But so now the number of people who've flown the new VFR, IFR route, you could probably count on one hand so far, because that just went into effect in November. But as far as that published route, the Alaska Airmen Association had a big hand in that with the Russian aviation authorities and the FAA in actually getting that published. And so it's something that not a whole lot of people in the world have done. So it's still a bit of a novel adventure. I think we should make some embroidered patches to put on our jackets, like the astronauts do. Also, it gives us an opportunity to validate that the new Kilo Romeo 824 route is operational. Check all the nav aids, check the communications. Just by actually flying the route from one end to the other is the best way to find out if everything's operational. And we'll continue trying to do that probably every year. This is probably the most fun, and this is the spirit I ask everybody to bring. It's a friendship flight, and we're all citizen goodwill ambassadors to Russia's people for general aviation and for Alaska. And the reception you get from those folks, you will not believe. Providenia doesn't have a lot of comforts in terms of tourist leisure goods, paved roads, hot water, restaurants, hotels, like that. But everything they lack, they more than make up for with the warmth of their people. It's just amazing. And they don't have small planes like we're flying in that part of Russia. So when they saw us coming, it was like how I must have looked the first time I saw the space shuttle. It's that unique to them. And people would just come up to us on the street and say, "Are you the Americans from Alaska?" And shake our hand and talk to us, and best they could. We did have an interpreter, as you will. But anyhow, so it was easy to be goodwill ambassadors because they wanted to know everything. And then, of course, develop and maintain direct positive relationships with relatives and neighbors in the Russian Far East. One of the first persons I met after I cleared customs and stepped out of the airport was a dog handler that I knew 30 years ago here in Alaska when we were both working on the Iditarod. But he lives over there, and never in a million years would I have dreamed that would happen. And they, you get to meet people, you can correspond with them. Right now, it's not as easy for them to fly VFR back to the United States, but we're working on that. We'll get there. I threw this in. A couple people have been asking me about times and stuff, and obviously how long it takes is based on what you're flying and how you fly. This was from the first attempt, and this was Marshall's and my flight from Merrill Field up to Nome, and then back from Nome to Merrill Field. So you can see we had 2 hours of ground time going up, and our total time was 8:50. So we were, actual flying time was 6:45. We were in a Cessna 172. And then coming back, it says 6:45, it was 6:29. We cut our ground time quite a bit. But so that just gives you some idea of getting up to Nome. From Nome over to Providenia is about 270 nautical miles. It's nonstop, so whatever you're flying, you can do the calculations and figure out. The second time I went up, we lost 4 of our 6 planes were unable to come back, and I had the good fortune of flying over the second time from Nome to Providenia in a Cirrus SR-22, and we went a little bit faster than the 172. But that was a wonderful trip both ways. I was telling Marshall later, I love the comfort and convenience of the SR-22, but I like the hands-on mechanical and steam gauges of a Cessna 172, because that's what I learned in. So I had the best of both worlds. Now some of these are on here. I don't expect to be able to read them, but I put them in the packet so that when I email them out to you, you'll have them. We want to talk a little bit about safety. Obviously, right now, Russia is rated by the State Department as a level 2 travel destination for Americans, and that translates to exercising increased caution. That's 2 out of a total of, I think, 5 levels. So they're basically just saying keep your wits about you. This is not the whole travel advisory. You can go online and look it up and read the whole travel advisory. It tells you some places in Russia where thou shalt not go, period, full stop. But this was relevant to us. If you decide to travel to Russia, there's several things listed, but make sure you have your travel documents up to date and easily accessible. Always accessible. And in fact, we recommend that you photograph them as well, so that you have them in your phone, or you have access to them in your computer or whatever. Photograph every document you've got, and also get a loose leaf notebook and put hard copies of everything in. In my notebook, I actually use page protectors because I'm flipping back and forth a lot. So I put all of my paperwork in page protectors. You will not believe how thankful you'll be if you get yourself a notebook now and keep your paperwork organized. So have your travel documents up to date, easily accessible. Enroll in the STEP program, the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, and then you'll, if you have coverage, you'll get alerts and other tips to make it easier to locate you in an emergency. If something comes up and the embassy needs to find you, or something's going on and you need to know about it, enrolling in this STEP program will make that work. And every one of you that goes, U.S. citizens abroad should always have a contingency plan for emergency situations and a plan to contact families to let them know you're safe. Okay, can't say enough about that. Cell phone coverage, I understand AT&T has coverage. I can tell you from experience GCI does not, and they don't have a roaming arrangement. So if you're GCI, you can either buy a burner phone at Walmart and take it with you, or you can buy a prepaid SIM card over in Providenia and put it into your GCI phone. And then while you're over there, you'll be on the Russian cell phone network and have a different phone number, but you'll be able to call, anywhere. But your GCI phone won't work. And then there's some telephone numbers and a website. So, as I said, I don't necessarily expect everybody to read this or write it down for now, because I'm going to email everybody this whole slideshow you're seeing tonight. Everybody's wondering about the Dos Equis, the coronavirus. I'm told if you get corona once and then get over it the second time you get it, you've got Dos Equis. But this is a update from the U.S. Embassy as of yesterday, and there are no new requirements on entry to Russia or exit from Russia specifically for U.S. citizens. On the other hand, I don't know if you heard or not, but just this afternoon, President Trump closed the border for European travelers to the United States. Folks are tightening up, clamping down. Right now, we're not planning to do anything different for our trip, but we're not putting blinders on either. We'll keep watching it and see how it unfolds. We've still got, I think it's 10 or 11 weeks for things to sort themselves out. This will also have links for you that you can go online yourself and check the status in Russia. Russia has closed some borders, the Chinese border, Mongolian border, they're being pretty proactive, so that's always a good thing. But as of now, there is no restrictions on our travel, no restrictions on Americans, and everybody will just have to make a personal decision about, whether they're going when the time comes. So let's talk a little bit about delays when you're planning this trip. Got a question?
John, unfortunately, we can't make it this year.
Huh.
But going back to one of your previous slides, when you're in Russia, where do you get weather information?
The question was, when we're in Russia, where do you get weather information? And I forget what the name of the program is, but MAC General Aviation Services gets it for us, and blanking on the name, but I'll get that for you. So when we're over in Nome, we're getting METARs and TAFs, from over there. But one of the things that makes it challenging is the time difference. Providenia is 20 hours ahead of us. Okay, or the easy way to calculate it is take our time, subtract 4 hours, and that's what time it is the next day. Marshall, you're sitting right here looking at me. Do you have a better answer than I had for the weather sources?
Well, I can give you some experiential type things. Is that Ross Hyderabad is the Russian forecasters.
Nope, not going to make it. Okay.
Do you want me in for the Facebook people to talk?
If you don't mind.
Yeah. Just a quickie is that you're going to be able to get weather when Dan Billman and I went over there in 2017. Actually, we didn't get weather like we should have because there was some shutdown that was really inexplainable, but we couldn't get weather through normal channels. But then Moscow would help us with the weather, and they wanted many different ways to get us the weather any way we could get it. But you know, if you got a cell phone over there that works like AT&T, you could actually pull up the weather just on your cell phone. You know, but there is Ross Hydromet, and you know, the Mac Gas. They basically are your dispatcher, so they'll have weather for you.
Yeah, we've had a great experience. We just started using Mac Gas for our aviation stuff last year. We had a company in Canada that served us well in years prior to that, and then we found MAC, General Aviation Services, based in Moscow, and they were just being so closer and speaking the language and everything. It all just, we put them under the other vendor's umbrella last year just so we had insurance, and it went so well. And they actually are, so far, have gotten us our permits and permissions sooner and for less cost. So unless somebody really, really wants to pay more, I'm recommending everybody use MAC General Aviation Services. One of the experiences that I've heard about historically is that sometimes you wouldn't even get your Russian landing permit until it was your day of departure. So you were going up to Nome without even knowing for sure if you were going to get your permit. And a lot of people really aren't comfortable throwing the dice quite that hard. Last year we actually had our permits before we left Anchorage, and that was a really refreshing change. So, so we're pretty excited. I have regular communication with Evgeny over in Moscow, and I can't say enough about how he's rolling out the red carpet for us. He also has a lot of involvement in Russian aviation regulations, which are changing like you wouldn't believe. They so much want more Alaskan aviation tourism. One of the reasons the route changed is because they redesigned it, and now instead of having a 5,000-foot floor, if you need to, you can drop down as low as 12 or 1,500 feet. And just having that much more flexibility to get under a patch of scud can make a big difference in a go or no-go. There were probably a few times last year where we might have been able to make it with that revision. And it's also getting easier and easier to come into the country. We're now able, if we planned it and people wanted to do it, we're now able to fly General Aviation VFR from Alaska through Russia down to Japan, through Russia down to China, and through Russia all the way over to Norway. I just can't tell you how much Russia is opening its doors for us. They're pretty proud of their avgas, of course. It's not cheap, and you have to special order it in some places, but it is now possible, both regulatorily and logistically, to make those flights, and that's pretty exciting. So, I mean, you know all the kinds of delays you can run into flying VFR. I'm going to talk for a moment to the folks who might be tuning in from outside of Alaska for a couple of things we all know about, and they might not, in terms of delays. The slide you're looking at here are two of the ones we encountered last summer. This one didn't actually result in a delay. What you're looking at there is a whole wall of wildfire smoke as we were on our way back into McGrath. So we had to circle around it. The wildfires were horrible last year. We lost a few friends in the fires and the smoke last year. And we saw quite a bit, but this just gives you an idea how that wall lined out. The other picture here is the volcanic ash cloud I was talking about that Marshall and I just missed. The path of our flight is, here's Nome, and then we're supposed to go up and over across to Lake Labrentia and then down the coast to Providenia. Well, you can see this is on the, I want to say the 25th. Yeah, but as you can see, that was a no-go. And then this was the 6-hour forecast ahead, and that was starting to even encroach on our ability to get out of Nome. So we were kind of feeling pretty smug about having made the decision not to hang out for another day. The folks in the lower 48, I don't know how aware you are of it, but volcanic ash and airplane engines just don't play well together. So we had an incident years ago where actually a brand new KLM 747 flew through a volcanic ash cloud at night and lost all 4 engines. And, you know, etched his windscreens and forward flight surfaces. Fortunately, as he dropped down in altitude, and he was up over in the interior over the Alaska range, so he, you know, could only go so far, but he dropped down, and as he dropped down, he was able to relight the engines, and then he flew in with difficulty seeing. Brand new 747 sat on the ground here for a few months until they were able to get new engines and new parts. I've seen that one of the pieces of the windscreen, and in fact I have a photo somewhere. If I look and see you guys right there, and then I crouch down and look through the windscreen, it's just a blur. You don't know if you're looking at people or stones or what. It's just an amazing thing. And then of course that volcanic ash is so abrasive, once it gets in your engine, it's gonna get really ugly. So volcanic ash is one you can't predict. But just so everybody knows, delays are certainly possible, and you folks from lower 48 might run into some delays that you're not accustomed to seeing. Okay, I like this one. You want to check your NOTAMs, because sometimes you have the TFRs for VIP visits and stuff. Up here, of course, it's also not uncommon for TFRs to pop up on short notice for wildfire ops. I like to tell people there's a number of things we can do to prevent seeing scenes like the one on the right here, like a fighter jet with a "Follow Me" sign on it. So, on the other hand, you know, VFR flight following is a good thing. And so, I know we certainly like to do that when we can. Okay, here's some more of the microscopic stuff. Oh, I know what this slide is. This slide, we talked last time about safety equipment, survival equipment. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of it again tonight, but there are some resources listed on the slideshow from last year. But we talked about what the state law is in Alaska, and especially you folks coming up from the lower 48 or from Canada need to know that the list that's going to be in your packet is state law. And so you cannot make a flight inside the state unless you have minimum equipment for summer months, rations for each occupant sufficient to sustain life for 1 week, an axe or a hatchet, a first aid kit, an assortment of tackles such as hooks, flies, lines, and sinkers, a knife, a fire starter, 1 mosquito head net for each occupant, 2 small signaling devices such as colored smoke bombs, railroad fuses, or very pistol shells in sealed metal containers. That one, I'm not sure how comfortable I would be, you know, flying it into Russia, but I think they pretty much say that you can do that, don't they? If it's sealed and you're not opening it, Marshall?
I've carried them in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And then I don't need to read the winter stuff, but it's interesting to read. But those are all considered required equipment. As we said last week, and many of you heard many times before, you know, we recommend a vest that has lots of survival stuff in all the pockets, like a fisherman's vest or something, and then a personal flotation device. And the concept is that you know, what you're wearing at the time you suddenly need survival gear is your survival gear, because there is no guarantee you're going to get to the rest of the stuff you have in the back of your plane. So the cliche is that this is your survival gear, what you're wearing, and the stuff in the back is your camping gear if you can get to it. So just consider that concept. Also, we talked about rafts and whatnot. So you can go back and review that yourself. It is available online. But I just wanted to show people who didn't know what the state law is in Alaska so that you're ready. Also used to have to carry a gun. So here we have the next slide are the key people, and I highlighted a couple of them. It sounded like maybe, I don't know if there were some typos or error information in there or not, but I went through and checked everything again. One of the things I want to point out is if you haven't signed up with MacGas yet, they have made it so easy you won't believe it. They made a special website for us to log into, and we'll go into that in a few more minutes. But if Jenny Kavanaugh from MacGas handles our aviation services, Tandy Wallach, Circumpolar Expeditions, handles not just our border entry permit and letter of invitation, but from the time we put our feet on the ramp to the time we put them back in the plane, it's all Tandy. Tandy takes care of everything on the ground. And so make sure that you are set up with her, that you have an account set up with her. She will also, even though you get your visas, she will help you with specific answers to some of the questions. She's been doing it long enough. She knows how to reply to different things so that everything goes smoothly without being dishonest. So absolutely, even if you don't have your visa yet, please get hold of Tandy and get things rolling, because she'll also give you some guidance on the visa as well. Okay. Okay. And then there's some other links for ICAO flight planning info, the Alaska ESRS and Master Flight Plan Program, and Andy here, of course, is another resource. You folks in the lower 48, I don't think you have that, but the ESRS program up here, if you file a master flight plan with one of the FSSs in Alaska for while you're flying in Alaska, it's like a boilerplate flight plan, and then when you fill in the details for each flight, you will have also already registered your radar tracker, your InReach or Spot or whatever on that master flight plan, so that if for some reason you have to hit that SOS button, you get a much more immediate response initiating the search and rescue if you have done the ESRS and Master Flight Plan Program, and it's free. So if you have any questions, you can ask one of us, you can contact Andy, but I also put the information link online, and it's really simple to follow. Okay. Okay, what do we got here? So we got, nothing's changed here except for the customs decal. Make sure you order that ahead of time, because that can take, I think, several weeks to get if you don't have it. It's an annual decal that you put on the door of your plane to show that you have paid the customs fee. It's something like $30 for a calendar year for unlimited entries. But you are required to have it for this trip. And then also through customs, you'll do the EAPIS guide for electronic pilot and crew manifest requirements, and that has to be done more than an hour before departure, just so everybody knows you're coming. Okay. And then if you want information, people have been asking, what can I take to Russia? What can I bring back to Russia? MacGas can answer those questions for you. This is actually the actual site to the Russian customs, and Tandy knows more than a thing or two about it as well. I'll tell you right off the top, no ivory. Okay. No ivory, and also you can't bring ivory either direction. You know, in Alaska, we can buy and sell fossilized walrus ivory, even if we're not native, and we can buy ivory artwork. You cannot take any of that over to Russia. You cannot buy any of it in Russia and bring it back. Oh, it's missing at the moment. I brought back a little scale model of a Russian native whaling boat that was gifted to me by the mayor of Providenia, and it was skin, and wood. It was done just like a real native boat, but nobody could verify that it was free of marine mammal. They weren't sure what the skin was, and so fortunately I had my inReach. I didn't have a phone, but I had my inReach, and so I was texting with Elmer at Nome Customs. I said, here's what I got. I got this gift from the mayor. I'd really like to keep it and bring it home, but I don't know. The customs folks in Nome are just amazing to work with. They will bend over and give you customer service you're not used to getting from the government. His response was, well, you've told me about it, you've reported it, you're not smuggling it, bring it over, we'll take a look and see. If it turns out it has marine mammal, we have to destroy it. If not, it's yours. And so I did bring it over, and he looked at it. He couldn't tell for sure, so he confiscated it and took it to Fish and Wildlife. And they examined it and determined that it was reindeer hide. And we knew it was too thin for walrus, but they were able to determine it was reindeer because there were a couple of little white roots from the fur sticking out in a seam or two. Now, I got it back. They would have shipped it to me back here in Anchorage if they had to. The customs guy, Elmer, he hand carried it from his office to the airport, to the check-in line. I was flying home on Alaska Airlines, and he hand carried it to me in the ticket line while I was checking in for my flight. Where do you get service like that? I mean, you know, we're just real people being real people. So don't be bashful about customs questions. Don't hope you have the right answer. These folks will bend over backward to help keep you out of trouble. Okay. And what is it we're not going to take over or bring back? Ivory. Really. Okay, so when you're getting ready to go, you've been hearing me talk a lot about paperwork. Before you can even start working with Tandy and with Jenny, obviously, United States passport, it has to be valid for at least 6 months after your travel dates, and it has to have at least two blank visa pages on it. Once you get it, you send it off, and it comes back, and it has the Russian visa planted on it. Obviously, if you've got an older visa, check the dates, make sure it's not going to expire before you leave. So, just wanted to show you what those look like. And yeah, I don't know if you've got a passport recently. The guy told me, I would smile. I love to smile. He said, don't smile for this picture. Okie dokie. But anyhow, so that's what you're looking at in your passport. That's your visa.
John,
Yes.
Question. You said 6 months, and you have 60 days up there.
I have 60 days up there for the passport. Oh my gosh. Yes, ignore that, please. Thank you, Tandy. I'll correct that tonight. Ignore that 60 days. I'm glad you caught that. It's 6 months, basically through the end of the year. Yeah.
Where do you have to send to get the Russian visa? Back to Washington in there? Or?
Tandy can help you with that. We recommend using Red Star, based in Seattle.
A friend of mine got a visa for 3 months.
Right. That's why we work with Red Star in Seattle, and they facilitate it for us.
Yeah, and they, again, will bend over backwards to help us. I came into last year's flight late, and you know, you pay more money if you have less time, but they bend over backwards to make it all work. So, like I say, Tandy knows how to make it work. And it's not illegitimate or cheating or anything. It's just there's some things you say and some things that are better not said. Just it's language more than legalities. So, gosh, thank you for catching that. Okay. So now we'll talk a little bit about signing up with MAC General Aviation Services, and this is for all your aviation stuff. And then I'm going to turn it over to Tandy and give her all the time in the world to talk more about her services and how to work with her. Like I say, you're in good hands. So, we're also going to talk a little bit about insurance and liability. So, but when you're ready to sign up for your aviation paperwork and aviation services, we go through, and the link is elsewhere. Jenny has set up a very simple sign-up process now, but you have to have everything ready so that when you start filling out the paperwork online, you can complete it, because it's not set up to where you can start it and then pause or sign out and then come back later with the scanned documents and continue the same form. You have to start all over again. So you'll see this all online, but you're going to want to make PDF scans of your airworthiness certificate, registration, proof of insurance. I don't think any of you have noise issues. You're not flying at Fords over, are you? Okay. Copy of the passport for each person on board, and a copy of your pilot license. Those are all going to be scanned documents you want to have before you log on to sign in. That's step one. Okay. Then also, you probably know it all in your head, but you need captain's name, citizenship, and the email you're going to be using, aircraft tail number, make, model, and ICAO type, fuel requirements. If you need fuel in Providencia, this year for the first time, it can be available. What I'm thinking is the pilots need to collaborate, and they maybe don't need to go through me. They can go directly through MacGas, and so the ones that do the logistics. But here's the deal on fuel. Providencia, as I said, is a deep water port, and so right now they have 3 barrels of 100 low lead sitting on that barge in the deep water port, and it's on the side of the bay that Providencia is. And as you recall, I pointed across the bay where the airport is. So they do hire some locals to bring it around to the airport, and he didn't say how much, but he said, but it won't break your budget. So, but I'm going to recommend that anybody contemplating on buying fuel in Providencia, bring your own fuel pump. Okay, just bring your own hand pump. You know, we just don't know, where those pumps, if they have, we don't know where they're stored or how they're cared for or anything. Just for confidence factor, bring your own hand pump, because there is no electrical or other kind of pump.
And filter?
Yeah, I would recommend that, absolutely. The drums are, I think he said 200 liters, which is about 52.8 gallons each. At the price we buy it by the drum, and at the price we pay, it comes out to be somewhere around $13 per gallon. So probably a couple of pilots want to collaborate to make sure that between you all, you get every drop out of that drum. So one of the questions you'll see on MacGas's forum is estimate your fuel needs if you need any fuel in Providencia. There are a couple of flights that we're contemplating, but they aren't set yet, and they'll be strictly volunteer. One is going to be a demonstration flight with a couple of school administrators and maybe the mayor as a demonstration flight for some free orientation flights we're hoping to do in 21 with some students who have done some studying and learning, similar to the Young Eagle program in the United States. We've got that ball rolling. So we may do one demo flight out of Providencia with 2 or 3 people, just a 30-minute flight or something if one of the pilots is willing to. And then there's a possibility that some of the staff of the Beringia National Park, and Tandy would know more about them than me, but possibility if somebody is willing to take them on a flight over some of the more remote regions of their park. That might be another extra flight that is an option. Obviously, unless you're going to buy fuel for the trip home, we've always said you've got to leave Nome with enough fuel to get back and have reserves. This year we have a little more flexibility, but that's what the story is on fuel. If you need fuel to make the round trip and get back with reserves, or if you're interested in volunteering to help with one of those flights, then we put it together, figure out some fuel estimations there. And as we get closer, one of the things I'm going to do when I send this out tonight is ask everybody's permission who's going to exchange information with each other. I'm generally careful about handing out people's information, but as soon as I get the permission from everybody that's committed to going, I want to exchange all the contact information so you all can communicate with each other directly. Okay? They'll want to know estimated entry and exit dates. Obviously, that's a toss of the dart with weather and whatnot. Name and citizenship of each crew member or passenger on board, and we call everybody a crew member. And we just do. Even if you're just a plane spotter, we don't carry passengers. We just have crew. And if you plan on any other airfields en route, one or more of the pilots is starting to think about maybe doing a domestic flight seeing trip independently, the proverbial $100 cheeseburger kind of flight. So I don't know exactly yet how that would work out, but Matt Gass tells us that can happen. One of the things that we have to look at are some of the liability issues. Because you've got to make sure you have insurance that's covering your flights, even the supplemental demo flights, and some insurance companies will not insure a flight in Russia or in Asia. So check with your agent now, and I hope to have it by tonight, but I didn't. But I'm surveying some of the pilots that have gone in the past to see what options are available. I know I've been told that VEMCO will do a policy, and anybody else know of any others? Do you know of any, Marshall?
Well, like Falcon, I think might go through Lloyd's, but there's brokers out there.
Okay, Falcon might go through.
I personally, Lloyd's of London.
Oh, Falcon might go through Lloyd's of London. So I'm going to send out a questionnaire to other pilots who have made the flight before, and if I get any other answers, I'll share them.
So this would be in addition to any EAPAS that you fill out?
I'm sorry, this would be in addition to?
In addition to EAPAS that you fill out leaving the country?
Oh, this would be in addition to EAPAS, yes. This is the paperwork you're filling out to create a business relationship with MacGas to provide for the aviation services. Absolutely, good question. So,
John?
Yes?
I'm insured with BWI, and I've been able to work with them to get a rider on my policy for this trip. So.
Okay, so we've got one that's been able to get a rider from BWI. That's another option. If I hear of any more, I'll send them out by email. Appreciate that, thanks. Okay, then, and then other airfields en route. When you talk to Jenny by email or whatnot, if you're thinking maybe you're interested in doing one of those flights, there's a place for writing comments, and you could put that in. He has assured us he will help us arrange to get any permits that you need to do anything like that. But going back to liability, I want to be real clear. I try to say this every time, just to be clear. The Alaska Airmen's Association is not is not doing this flight. You're not paying us to do this. We are doing free organization services for everybody. The only money I ever ask anybody for is if you're not a member, I'll ask you to get a membership with the Airmen's Association. But we do not charge any fees. We do not take a percentage of anybody else's fees, and you do not pay us. All of the vendors that you will be using, you will business relationship with each of them. Tandy, Jenny, and everybody, Red Star, you're going to pay them directly. The Airmen Association doesn't touch a penny of that, and we don't get a penny of that. We are just offering a free service to help you all kind of organize together, but you are independent pilots on independent flights. Okay, and sooner or later we'll probably have you sign some kind of a paper making sure you understand that. But so that's our role, is we're voluntarily helping you all organize independent flights in your planes over to Russia, and doing it in a way that you're all able to do it at the same time, so you have the security of other pilots and the companionship also. Okay? So, going back to Jenny's sign up, this is the information. He's got you can fill in the PDF form online with all this information. He will have you complete the questionnaire, attach the PDF files you made step 1, and then you hit the submit button. And then you're connected with him. He'll give you ways to communicate, to answer any questions and whatnot. He's a wonderful guy to work with. I've never talked to him, so I don't know how good his verbal English is. His written English is impeccable. And he knows his stuff. You can tell from the way he answers the questions I'm asking. He absolutely knows it. Among other things, he's the chair of aviation tourism for the Russian AOPA. So he's very knowledgeable, very helpful, and very eager to have us have a successful experience. Okay. And so this brings us to Tandy, and I left it wide open for you, Tandy. I didn't make an agenda for you. I just gave you a block of time, and it's all yours.
Okay.
And this is so the folks at Facebook can hear us.
Okay, and that's the camera?
And that's right on the screen there.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Tandy Wallach, and I own Circumpolar Expeditions. I want to assure you that everything's going as planned for our trip in May. There's lots of volatility in our country and the world right now with the market and the coronavirus and all of that. But I've talked to Red Star, who is in constant communication with the Russian embassy, and so far Russia has restricted folks from Europe coming in. They originally had the US and Canada on that, but that was removed, so they're not on any kind of, we're not on any kind of restriction to be able to go to Russia. Those folks, the restriction is once you get there, you need to self-quarantine yourself. And what they described is you'll sign a statement and you'll stay indoors at your home for 14 days. So that wouldn't work for us. We're not staying 14 days, but that's not required of us at this point in time. Let's not be concerned about any what might happen. You know, there's a lot of turmoil in Russia right now, you know, with Putin trying to change the constitution so he can be czar forever. But I haven't felt any kind of trouble that we can't go to Chukotka. You know, all that stuff happens in Moscow, and that's a long way from Chukotka. So everything's still on, the plans are set. I've got a list that John sent me that has 6 aircraft and 13 people. I've been in contact with at least one representative of each aircraft, and some of the others as well about the paperwork. So I do need to have the forms. I know Rod's got his, and I need those forms as soon as possible. And then we start working on, I'll give you the information on how to fill out the Russian visa, online with Red Star. I talked to Roman down there. I'm going to send him a list of who we have on board so that he can expedite anything that needs to be done. And I'll tell you, when I do that visa online, I find it difficult because it's an online system. If you make a mistake, you got to go back again or whatever. But the information letter that I send out on how to fill it out, some of the questions, what you can answer and put down. They want to know where you're staying. We put down the address and phone number of Nina's B&B. We will not be staying at Nina's B&B. We'll probably be staying at the school, the technical school. But that's fine for the application. So I'll send you that information. You go online and process it. If you have any difficulty with that, then call me or call Roman. And then what happens is you mail your passports down to him, and then he will facilitate it with the embassy in Washington, D.C. The other thing that he can do is that we have one pilot who can't give up her she's a professional pilot, cannot give up her passport to go off to that long away, because she's flying back and forth from Europe, I think. Anyway, she's getting a second passport, and I spoke with Roman down there. They do passports, and you can get a passport in a day with him. And this is another new thing I didn't know, is that you can have a second passport. I always thought you could only have one. Anyway, those things we can accommodate those. Of course, it will cost more money if you needed to get a passport, but all's good with being able to process the Russian visa and then the Chakotay permission. I'm trying to work with those guys so that we don't have to have the Russian visa for the paperwork on the Chakotay permission. I'm trying to get that, see if they'll bend a little on that. So far, I haven't heard back from them. So let's see, what else can I tell you? Or what questions do you might have for me?
We haven't talked at all about the kinds of ground opportunities there might be, and I'm sure you don't have them locked in yet, but just some ideas.
You had a question?
Travel insurance.
Okay, good. Are you Miles? Miles, okay. So we recommend, we've always used Travel Guard, and they have a special evacuation insurance that you need to ask for. That's the only kind of insurance I get, and that evacuation insurance is to assure me that if something happened, that they will arrange an aircraft to come over and get me and bring me home. Now, the other thing is that I contacted them today, and I could not speak to a real person because everybody is calling them about the cancellation. Their policies do not cover the coronavirus, and on their website they have all kinds of questions and what this and what that, quite extensive. But I still would buy the insurance for the evacuation. And you can do the medical, but with the coronavirus, it won't be covered. So.
What's the cost for the travel guard?
It depends on your age, but it was, I don't know, like $60, $70 or something for the evacuation insurance. And that's the one that I'm more concerned about, is that. So, and I've always used them for years, and they're very easy to work with as well.
That's Travel Guard?
Travel Guard, yeah. And the policies are determined by the state you live in and your age. So.
Nobody has any kind of cancellation policy like we cover the coronavirus?
Not that I know of. Not that if I find one, I'll let you know. Right now, as you know, the travel industry is just all up and down all over the place. I just saw Alaska Airlines is thinking about furloughing people, canceling flights, and it's going to be a huge economic impact on them. But I don't see that affecting us. The only thing would be if Russia added the U.S. and Canada to the restrictive 14-day policy that they have right now. But I don't think so. So I'm going ahead. Everything's planned to depart on May 31st. In the past, we've talked about what we're going to be doing, and it's fluid, but typically what happens is that once we land in Providenia and then go through customs and immigrations, then we will be picked up by our guide and transported into Providenia to our accommodations. And then we begin our whirlwind of different activities that sometimes we don't even know what they are. But they know we're coming, they know who we are, they're very excited that we're still coming. And so what happened last year is when we first went to the school in Providenia and spoke with them. Then we were able to visit with the mayor of Providenia, who's just, thrilled that we want to keep this air route going because it helps him. So then we went to, we went to school.
Went to the mayor, and then we had dinner.
Then we had dinner.
Yeah, and then the next day,
We went, right.
The gulags. And
Right. So the next day, then we're planning to go to New Cepelino, and we go in their vehicle. They have a 4-wheel, 6-wheel, 16-drive truck that we will probably be going in over to New Cepelino, which is a village that used to be on the tip, the very tip of the Chukotka Peninsula there. And they were sister cities with Gamble and Savunga, because they're the same Siberian Yupik. But they were moved away from that to interior because the Russians, felt that, it was all the Cold War stuff, and so they felt, we got to protect you and move you to this other side. So that's why it's called New Cepelino, and they're Siberian Yupik. And then we've added an extra day in there, and one of the things that we did on the way to New Cepelino was, I'd never been there before, and I don't think you were either. You've been there to the gulags? Okay. That was fascinating to me because I've never been to that. So we'll probably be able to go through that again. These are bunkers from the Cold War and World War II. And as far as additionally, I'm still waiting for them to come up with what we will be doing. There's some other opportunities near there for us to go as a museum as well. So, let's see, what else can I tell you?
She makes my job so easy. I give her the mic and it's all covered.
Well, we've covered this several times before, and the two components are...
Not with this group though.
Yeah. The two components are MAC, aviation, and then what I do, which is the land arrangements and the permission for Chukotka. So all's on track. Just get me the paperwork, and then we'll keep moving forward with it. If anything changes, I'll let you know. Roman is keeping close contact with the consulate, and so we move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. Double Dutch here. Okay. I'm sure you'll be having a lot more contact with Tandy, and like I say, you're just in great hands there. I have a couple more notes and comments, but I also found the little boat I was telling you about. These are made authentic to scale. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's a skin boat. It's got a couple of long oars, a whaling harpoon, a buoy. It was just so cool.
Show people on Facebook.
Oh yeah, sorry Facebook. Oh. This is the whaling boat that I got from the mayor of Providenia, and they're hand built to scale. He had a few of them on a shelf in his office, and he gave Candy one too. But then when we saw the real ones in the museum and stuff, it was just incredible how skillful they're made. But it is obviously a hide, and it was too thin to be walrus, but we didn't know. As it turned out to be reindeer, and which made sense because there's a lot of reindeer up in that region. So, I've been gathering questions from people in their email as we go too, and I'll hit on a few of them and give you a few other tips. A couple of tips. When you're filling out paperwork and writing things for the Russians, they do their 6-digit date the opposite of what we do. We put month and then day and then year. They do day and then month and then year. So if you see something here that says 06/08/20, that's June 8th, 2020. But if you see the same 06/08/20 over there, that's August 6th of 2020. So just be really aware. I've actually, just to avoid confusion, since I write to people on both sides, I've actually gotten to spelling out the month. But just be aware that when you are reading stuff from the other countries, that they reverse the day and the month. We didn't talk much about electric power either, but if you take your cell phone or alarm clock or anything else that you got to plug in, they're on 220 volt. So you'll need to consider getting yourself an adapter. Or if you just have your cell phone and you need to charge it, oh shucks, I didn't bring it. But you can get, the portable rechargers. I've got, what's it called? Something juice, but I'll bring it next time. But, and it's just basically a big battery, and you plug that up to 100%, and I took it with me, and I was able to fully recharge my cell phone that was down under 30% 3 times on that one charge. So they're really handy if you don't have access to a plug or you don't have an adapter. And this particular one, I'll write down the information when I send this out. But this particular model, when I bought it, they said there's a limit to how much juice you can take on a commercial airplane. And this is basically the best one you can get and still carry it in your carry-on for when you're flying commercial. I will include that information. I got it at Best Buy, and it's been great. Like I say, I charged it in Nome. My cell phone ran down 3 times while I was away. 3 times I brought it back to 100%, and I still had a bit left when I got back to Nome. So that's another way you can handle some of the electric issues.
Could you also, if you know of an adapter that works and a source, could you provide that information?
Yeah, I'm not very knowledgeable about that stuff, but I think a lot of the stores like Fred Meyer's and Ace and whatnot will have them.
REI's got them for sure.
Say again?
REI's got them for sure.
Oh yeah, REI's got them. So, yeah, I looked at them before I left, and I realized how ignorant I am about them. I didn't know if some of them you need another kind of a transformer to plug in the middle, or all that kind of stuff. So I'm the world's worst person to ask that question of. But REI can help you, or one of the other. What's the one? Oh, Frigid North probably could help you also over on. Where's Frigid?
Bernard.
Bernard, right, down towards 36 somewhere. Those are.
Could I ask you, Rod, what do you need to charge up?
A CPAP machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
You're probably going to need a transformer then too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 220 volts is also 50 cycle. So 110 is 60 cycle. You definitely need a transformer to make that jump.
This is the nice thing about going as a group, is if one person doesn't know, another one does. So don't be hesitant to speak up. We're all working on the same team here. Thank you. Okay, Marshall, if you don't mind, I'm going to toss this to you. What navigation equipment is required? I don't have an ADF or GPS. All I have is 2 VOR receivers. I normally use 4Flight on an iPad with another iPad as a backup. Could get a portable GPS if needed.
Okay, as far as the navigation equipment, this is a VFR flight. So the Russian AIP basically says that you need to have an ADF on board. You know, I never carried an ADF personally, for what it's worth. But this last time around, I used a iPad with a bad elf GPS. Or pardon me, I used. I've got a bad elf GPS, but I've also got a GLONASS GPS with Bluetooth to the iPad, because you know you can only stick so many things into your iPad, and the flight's long enough where the iPad wouldn't last battery-wise. So I got a USB adapter, you know, to power up the units, and then Bluetooth in the GLONASS, which GLONASS is basically it uses GPS plus the Russian equivalent of GPS, which is GLONASS. So, you know, the VOR, there's no VORs over there in that part of the world. There's only Laurentia, NDB, and Providenia NDB. And they do have a PAR for precision approach radar, and it looks like it's from the 1950s. You know, with the controller doesn't have a scope like that. They have to put their visor on to look at their radar. So I would say if the weather is going to be that bad, probably would just miss and go back home.
If it's somebody local, I have a handheld GPS I can roll.
Oh, good.
You know,
Yeah.
portable GPS.
Great. Okay, and somebody else was asking about if they needed paper charts or if they could use 4Flight charts all the way. You can't always even get a paper chart from Russia. Marshall, do you have any thoughts on that one also? I mean, you can get stuff online, but...
Right, the AIP has the Russian charts available. You can download them and print them out for yourself. But 4Flight has been probably the best, most responsive. The whole route is actually covered on the American chart. The
No sectional.
yeah, it's it still shows Bravo 369 on there. But it's essentially the same as KR824, so the anticipation is that when the next pub comes out, it'll be updated, I believe, to show KR824 rather than Bravo 369, but it's the same thing, basically. And if you overlay it on, if you have 4Flight, for example, or I'm not so sure about Garmin Pilot, but the overlay works fine. I mean, it's updated on 4Flight. It was updated as soon as they published it, with the Russians published it.
Yeah, they were really all over that. That was a good thing. And they stitched it in seamless too, whereas as you see on the GNOME sectional, you know, it's an inset, or it was, I haven't looked at it recently. Yeah, that kind of upset the apple cart for a little bit when they took the WAC charts away. I kept my last one. But these are good questions. Let's see, somebody else asked, I'm considering inviting my 15-year-old grandson along. Would this be a problem? Any age limits? And there is no issue with that as long as they, you know, have all the documentation they need as well. I know we've got one flight that is bringing an 8-year-old grandson. So it is possible for children to go. Obviously, you have to assume that liability and that responsibility. But boy, I would think that would just be the trip of a lifetime for somebody in that age group. That would be amazing.
So, it's my 8-year-old grandson that we're planning to
Oh,
take.
that's you, okay.
And, I was just thinking, Tandy, do you think there's any paperwork required from his mother, my daughter, to
No.
the fact that he's with me? They don't require any paperwork like that, right? Okay.
No, not.
I think I'll have
You-
some,
you have to-
I'll have her write a letter anyway.
I would say you have a guardianship or power of attorney or something.
Well, yeah, I just was
Well,
kind of
Mexico has
Yes.
a requirement that you have to have
Yeah.
permission from both parents.
nothing in
No.
Russia. Okay,
No, so.
good.
Yeah.
What
I'm
an
excited.
opportunity that's going to be.
Yeah, he's pretty excited about it.
Yeah,
Mm.
so,
Okay.
When I first talked to him about it, he must have gone home and gotten online or something with his mom, but he started asking me about all the castles he was gonna see. So I think he ended up looking at Moscow pictures.
Okay. This is a good one, and we'll talk about it again, but in the past, have participants taken small gifts to the Russian people? If so, what kinds of things would you suggest? Absolutely, swag is the name of the game. We've had, I took some airmen's hats and a bag full of old airmen's pins. They're real popular. Another couple brought a big, almost a duffel bag full, I think, of snap-on, the plastic snap bracelets and plastic beads and just cheap trinkets. Thank you. And, just little things like that the kids will enjoy. Tanny, you've got some thoughts on that?
So one of the things that we do every year is check with what they really might need. For instance, sometimes they can't get needles or they can't get crayons or something like that. So they will let me know of things that would be very, very appreciative if we bring it over there. But the other thing is, bring trinkets to exchange. They love exchanging buttons and pins and stuff like that. But bring photographs of your family and your house or something, because they're very interested in who we are and how we live over here. So I always bring pictures of, my dog and, that kind of a thing, so you can have this human connection between people. And that's what this is about. It's really a human connection, one-on-one with them, so.
And you'll have an amazing conversation. Thanks, Andy. That's great. Okay, we got a question from Fairbanks. Does FATA require you to have a Russian licensed pilot navigator on board the aircraft? Thank you, Fairbanks, for that, or Facebook for that question. I thought I said Fairbanks. Thank you, Facebook, for that question, and the answer is no. That's one of the things that we've been able to achieve over the years. The Russians now put an English speaker in the tower. Well, they did put it in Laurentia, and I don't know if they're still going to do that or not. And they have one down at Anadir. So we do not have to carry the English or the Russian navigator who would serve as a translator anymore. And so that's a great big deal that the Russians did for us. We've had a letter of agreement between the United States and Russia for flying general aviation along this route that we created and they created. You can't take all the credit here. They created and we created. But that letter of agreement is seriously outdated now. We're in the process of doing a new updated letter of agreement between the United States and Russia, and it's going to cover the new Kilo Romeo 824. And so the FAA has a draft of that in hand now that they're editing and refining. And once they run it up their flagpole and everybody salutes, then they send it over to Russia, and then the same process happens over there. They tweak it and refine it, and it goes back and forth. And once everybody's all saying yes, then I think we need to get together and get a few bottles of champagne and have a signing party myself. But I have been assured that there is no complication whatsoever of us making this flight, even with the old letter of agreement being such as it is, and the new one still being developed. We've all done this often enough with each other that there's doesn't appear any kind of issue. In fact, arguably, we could do the trip if there was no letter of agreement. It's just nice to have stuff, you know, on paper so everybody's reading the same sheet music. So, excellent question. You do not need to have a Russian pilot navigator on board. Okay. What restrictions are there about bringing back items? I would dearly love to have an authentic Russian beaver fur hat. I did put some links in there for the Russian customs and the American customs, and also if Jenny can talk to you about the Russian side. I know for sure no ivory. Tandy, what's your take on fur? I know ivory and no marine mammals.
Well, that's exactly it. It's ivory and marine mammal products. So we will have an opportunity to be able to purchase items for sale, and that really helps them out too. We were at the school, and one of the teachers had a whole selection of slippers, and I think she had scarves and things of that nature. Wall hangings.
All beaded work.
Traditional art and that kind of a thing. So as long as it's not marine mammal, we're fine. And you know, I've been working with these guys for years, and I've explained to them, you need to create things that we can bring back out of the country, not just, they have beautiful ivory, I'll tell you. I wish I could find it, but at this point we can't. But they do have other selections, and they had some hats there. I can't remember what they were made out of, but yeah.
So, yeah, you can check the sites and talk to Jenny also, and I'll see if I can get an answer as well. But keep in mind that ultimately the answer you choose is the one that's going to hang you, not the person that gave it to you. So I really urge you to do your research. I have one more question and 5 minutes, and I don't think this one will take 5 minutes, so if you have other questions, we'll have time for a couple more as well. The last one I have is, do you exchange currency before going so as to have Russian rubles with you? Are there any opportunities to buy anything? The answer to the first part is yes. I didn't do that on the last time, even though they told me so. Tandy told me so, everybody told me so. Well, I'm Swedish. You can always tell a Swede. You just can't tell them very much. Okay. So I went over with the dollars, and I figured they did say there are banks over there in Providencia. What none of us realized was that apparently the banks in Providencia are closed on Mondays. So, and we were only there we flew in on Monday morning their time, or Monday afternoon their time, and then we flew back out Wednesday. So. One of our people had some extras that I bought from him, and so I was able to get a little bit of vodka to bring home, and just a little bit of stuff to take. But absolutely, I would suggest you take. I was recommended to take maybe $200, maybe $300 at the most in Russian rubles. And it's not like you can go down to the bank here and get it in one day. You have to order it in advance. And so a couple of weeks before you go, maybe even a month before you go, check with your bank and see if they can get you Russian rubles, and if so, how long it will take. Because it could take 3 to 4 weeks even. But I definitely recommend you get rubles here. The other option is, a lot of places there, I think, take plastic.
Yes, I was quite surprised that at the stores that they took credit cards. Okay, so that was an option. But everything we're saying right now is what we know happened last year.
Exactly.
You know, they used to have a beautiful coffee shop there, an internet coffee shop, so you can go in and check your email and everything like that. And yet, it's not there anymore. So everything we're telling you is what we believe is going to be there. They do have a bank. For years, they never had a bank. They do have a bank now, and they can exchange dollars for rubles. You know, this Monday thing, I don't know, you know, it was a bank holiday or something like that, but we can exchange at the bank, and you can use credit cards at the store. But I would recommend going to your bank and exchanging a couple $100 into rubles. And I have some rubles, and if worst comes to worst, I know I can exchange dollars with the park there if you needed something. So that's what I think is going to happen.
Good caveat. Yeah, and when I asked about the bank being closed on Monday, they said, no, that's routine. That's their weekend. So I thought the same thing. I thought, well, it's a holiday or something. They said, no, the bank's closed on Mondays. What else do you want to know?
Since we're crossing 60 miles of open water, is there any place that we can rent dry suits or life rafts, anything like that?
Good question. The question was, while we're, since we're going over open water, 60 nautical miles twice, once each way, are there places to rent dry suits, life rafts, and whatnot? The answer is yes, there are some places here in Anchorage where you can rent a dry suit, and I can't say for sure about life rafts, but I believe so, and I can research it. Another option is possibly, one of our members might be able to work something out with you. But do you know about the life rafts, Marshall?
No, it's pretty easy to get dry suits here in town now for a reasonable price. There's a couple places, but we just borrow the raft. So.
Yeah. I didn't wear a dry suit last year, but I'm told that people that do wear them only wear them up to their waist. Otherwise, you'll roast and sitting in a greenhouse going over the water on a sunny day. But it is absolutely good insurance. And I don't know if REI rents them or not, but I'll do some rustling around and see if I can find the names that Dan had a few names that might be possibilities. He did also mention that you want to rent them early because, it's not like buying a shirt off the rack where they have 15 in the same size.
Yeah.
So I will get that information and get it out to everybody also. Good question. What other questions? We got a few minutes yet.
Back to the emergency gear. So I guess this is probably a customs question, but can you take a firearm or not?
I don't have an official answer to that. I'm told by some people that yes, you can. I don't think you can take it out of the plane while you're there.
Yeah.
That would have to stay on the plane, but I don't have an official answer for that. It seems like I read something in the AIP that allows it, but I'd have to research.
Is that something that MacGas would answer for us? Or?
They could
Okay.
definitely tell you that.
I just normally have a firearm in my survival gear, but
Yeah.
I can pull it out if necessary.
Yeah, when I was flying, I did the same thing. So,
Okay.
good.
Just to comment on rules and stuff that you might want to talk about, cameras on the ramp.
Oh, yeah. Marshall brought up, it's worth discussing the concept of cameras on the ramp. Okay, you can't take any pictures on the ramp. Was it you and Dan that were told in no uncertain terms? No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Until the bill is
Yeah, and no sooner had they said no, you can't take any pictures. They were all taking pictures of our planes and our people. So, but you know the golden rule, right? The golden rule says whoever's got the gold gets to make the rules. So absolutely, you don't want to even think about taking pictures on the ramp. But before we left, and when you get there, they're very stiff and orderly and formal, and after they get to know us a little bit, they loosen up a bit. They're still very formal, but a little softer, more casual. And so I asked if I could take a picture of our group and our planes on the ramp, and they said yes, but you must point in that direction with the airport at our back. So I did get pictures of our crew and the 2 planes that made the trip, but there's no hint of an airport in the picture. It's going across the runway and then across the bay. So in town, I didn't run into any conflict or objection anywhere, and I took a lot of pictures. Have you ever run into any restrictions? So
If they realize we got satellites, they'll take pictures of the whole town.
Right. They got satellites that can tell me what the brand name and model number of my camera is.
So I guess flying in with a GoPro on the strut probably wouldn't be a good idea.
No. You might get asked more questions than you want to answer. I have seen videos where obviously somebody put a GoPro, up inside at the top center of their windscreen, but I'm not sure who took that or what year it was, but there's at least one video of an aircraft coming all the way in. So I'm the kind of person, I'm conflict averse. I prefer to avoid having to answer questions that make me uncomfortable, especially when I'm in a foreign country. I would rather be on good terms with them.
Yeah.
It's a good question. One more question. All right, well, thank you very much, all of you, for being here and participating, whether you're going this year or next year or just learning. If I have everybody's name, and I already have your email address, or you wrote it down for the first time here, I will get this slideshow out to everybody. I'll probably do it tonight when I get home, because the longer I sit on things, the easier it gets to sit on things. So,
I would use those.
thank you very much.